Welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. Today is a beautiful, thrilling day to dive deep into the latest dramatic developments in Genoa City. We have some incredibly intense and dark updates regarding the Newman family, so grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let us unpack the explosive psychological drama that is about to unfold on your screens. Nick Newman is currently trapped in a suffocating downward spiral, a terrifying descent fueled by unresolved trauma and a rapidly escalating dependency on fentanyl. The agonizing memories of his time in the Las Vegas underground bunker, where Matt Clark subjected him and his loved ones to unimaginable psychological and physical torture, continue to haunt his every waking moment. This profound post-traumatic stress disorder has pushed the beloved Newman son to the absolute brink of his sanity, completely blurring the lines between legal justice and cold-blooded vengeance. He is no longer the rational, grounded man Genoa City once knew and respected. Instead, he has transformed into a desperate, paranoid soul, self-medicating with highly dangerous narcotics just to numb the visceral terror that Matt Clark's sudden resurrection has ignited within his shattered psyche. Driven by this toxic cocktail of relentless fear and severe chemical dependency, Nick has formulated a chillingly calculated plan to eliminate the looming threat of Matt Clark once and for all. He adamantly refuses to listen to the desperate, logical pleas of his brother Adam or heed the stern warnings of his powerful father, Victor Newman. Nick stubbornly believes that he alone must be the executioner to protect Sharon and Noah from further devastation. To legitimize this premeditated assassination, Nick has hired Detective James Burrow, fully intending to manipulate the seasoned investigator into serving as a crucial eyewitness. Nick's dark objective is to force Burrow to ultimately testify that Nick's lethal actions against Matt were entirely justified in self-defense. It is a dark, desperate gamble, showcasing just how far Nick's moral compass has shattered under the crushing weight of his addiction. Detective James Burrow initially appeared to be the absolute perfect pawn for Nick Newman's incredibly dangerous endgame. With his extensive investigative resources, underworld connections, and seemingly unquestioning loyalty to the massive Newman bank account, Burrow was specifically tasked with tracking down the elusive Matt Clark. Matt has been aimlessly wandering the streets of the city with a severe case of amnesia following his violent, near-fatal altercation with Sienna Bacala in the remote dead Sahara Desert. Nick has poured a highly significant amount of his personal wealth into funding this frantic manhunt, anxiously awaiting the exact moment Burrow would deliver Matt's precise coordinates. Nick's trembling hands and sweat-slicked brow highlight his desperate, agonizing anticipation as he views Burrow not just as a hired investigator, but as the final, necessary instrument of his dark salvation. However, the intricate, lethal web that Nick is attempting to weave has been violently and silently hijacked by none other than the notoriously unpredictable Patty Williams. The famously unstable Patty recently had a bizarre, fateful encounter with the amnesiac Matt Clark during a seemingly innocent afternoon at Crimson Lights. During this strange interaction, the terrifying reality of their shared history is secret. Twisted marriage forged many years ago under a deceptive alias remained hidden behind Matt's completely blank stare. Yet, Patty's fractured but undeniably brilliant mind quickly assessed the extraordinary situation. Realizing that the monstrous abuser who once terrorized the Newman family is currently existing as a highly impressionable blank slate, Patty recognized an unprecedented, golden opportunity to mold a lethal weapon for her own chaotic agenda. Operating with a chilling level of cunning and strategic foresight that completely defies her documented psychiatric history, Patty Williams swiftly intercepted Nick Newman's desperate manhunt. She covertly approached Detective James Burrow with a lucrative offer that completely eclipsed whatever substantial fortune Nick was paying him. Patty's incredibly deep pockets and terrifyingly persuasive psychological tactics successfully bought Burroughs' absolute loyalty, transforming the supposedly reliable and professional detective into a treacherous, self-serving double agent. Burrough eagerly agreed to play both sides of this dangerous coin, maintaining the convincing illusion of working tirelessly for the Newman heir while actively taking his true, sinister marching orders from the deeply unhinged Patty. This invisible, devastating betrayal sets the stage for a catastrophic collision course. Now firmly operating under Patty Williams' strict control, Detective Burrough begins a highly systematic and cruel campaign of psychological sabotage against the vulnerable Nick Newman. Instead of delivering actionable, accurate intelligence regarding Matt Clark's actual whereabouts, Burrough starts feeding Nick a relentless, exhausting stream of false leads, delayed reports, and entirely fabricated sightings. He intentionally sends the drug-addled Nick chasing invisible phantoms across the most desolate, dangerous, and isolated parts of the city. Burrough is meticulously orchestrating wild goose chases that are specifically designed to drain Nick's financial resources and completely fracture his already fragile, deteriorating mental state. Every single dead end is a deliberate, calculated strike against Nick's sanity, carefully curated by Patty to maximize his emotional and physical suffering. The devastating toll of this futile, endless search on Nick Newman is absolutely horrifying to witness. With every failed lead and empty promise provided by the treacherous Detective Burrough, Nick's profound desperation deepens, driving him significantly further into the suffocating, deadly embrace of his fentanyl addiction. The dangerous narcotics become his only available refuge from the crushing, overwhelming disappointment and the terrifying, inescapable reality that his ultimate nemesis remains freely at large. Nick spends countless hours sitting alone in his vehicle outside abandoned warehouses and empty motels, violently trembling from severe withdrawal symptoms and skyrocketing paranoia. He remains completely, tragically unaware that the very man he is paying to find his abuser is the primary architect of his current, agonizing misery. While Nick Newman is kept perpetually busy chasing useless shadows in the dark, Patty Williams is expertly utilizing the bought time to execute her grand, terrifying design for the amnesiac Matt Clark. By keeping Nick entirely distracted and out of the equation, Patty ensures that she has exclusive, uninterrupted access to the vulnerable villain. She fully intends to carefully and methodically control the narrative of Matt's memory recovery, feeding him highly selective truths and deeply manipulative lies to shape his newly emerging identity. Patty desperately wants to ensure that when Matt finally remembers the terrifying monster he truly is, his explosive rage and violent tendencies are perfectly, seamlessly aligned with her own dark vendettas, particularly her deep-seated, historical hatred for the Newman and Abbott patriarchs. This calculated, deliberate isolation of Matt Clark is a brilliant masterstroke of psychological warfare on Patty's part. Patty intrinsically knows that Nick Newman's absolute greatest fear is the unpredictable, uncontrollable violence that Matt represents to Sharon and Noah. By hiding Matt in plain sight and expertly pulling the investigative strings through the compromised Detective Burrough, Patty is effectively torturing Nick by proxy without ever having to lift a finger herself. She is weaponizing the terrifying unknown, allowing Nick's drug-addled, paranoid imagination to conjure up the absolute worst-case scenarios while she calmly and quietly constructs a ticking time bomb. The sheer, unadulterated malice behind this strategy highlights the terrifying evolution of Patty Williams, proving her madness is laced with lethal brilliance. Detective Burroughs' ongoing performance in this deadly, high-stakes charade is chillingly smooth and flawlessly executed. Whenever an exhausted, furious Nick demands immediate answers, his voice thick with narcotic rage and utter, heartbreaking desperation, Burrough responds with practiced calm and highly plausible, professional excuses. He expertly manipulates Nick's escalating paranoia, smoothly suggesting that Matt Clark is utilizing highly sophisticated, professional evasion tactics, thereby justifying the exorbitant, ongoing fees he continues to extract from the bleeding Newman bank account. Burroughs' sociopathic ability to look directly into the bloodshot eyes of a broken, grieving father and lie without a single noticeable flinch demonstrates the profound moral bankruptcy of the man Nick foolishly trusted with his darkest, most dangerous secret. The massive financial drain is undeniably significant, but it pales in stark comparison to the absolute emotional and psychological bankruptcy Nick Newman is currently experiencing. His isolation from his family is rapidly becoming absolute and insurmountable. Adam and Victor Newman, deeply sensing the uncontrollable, lethal danger Nick currently poses to himself and others, have secretly colluded to cut him entirely out of their own strategic operations. This leaves Nick entirely, tragically dependent on Detective Burroughs' fabricated intelligence. This desperate dependency is exactly what the cunning Patty Williams anticipated from the very beginning. She has effectively trapped the Newman heir in an inescapable labyrinth of deception, where every frantic turn he takes is dictated by her whims. The tragic, overarching irony of this entire situation is absolutely staggering and profoundly heartbreaking. Nick Newman, a resilient man who miraculously survived the historical horrors of Martin Gray and the recent psychological torture of the Las Vegas underground bunker, is now being systematically dismantled from the inside out by a woman he barely even considers a viable threat. He genuinely believes he is the apex hunter, meticulously planning a foolproof self-defense murder to protect his beloved family. In harsh reality, however, he is nothing more than deeply wounded prey being cruelly toyed with by a brilliant predator who operates entirely in the unseen shadows. The fragile illusion of control is the absolute most dangerous drug Nick is currently consuming. Watching this specific storyline unfold evokes a profound, overwhelming sense of heartbreak and genuine, visceral anxiety within me. It is genuinely devastating to witness a legacy character like Nick Newman, a man who has always fought so valiantly and selflessly for the safety of his family, be reduced to such a vulnerable, easily manipulated state by the insidious, suffocating grip of chemical addiction. As a dedicated, passionate observer of Genoa City's endless, beautiful tragedies, I find my own heart aching deeply for Nick's silent, agonizing suffering. The raw, palpable pain of his trauma radiates through the screen, making me wish I could somehow intervene. At the exact same time, there is a chilling, undeniable awe at the sheer narrative brilliance of Patty Williams' dramatic return. Her ability to seamlessly hijack a premeditated murder plot and twist it into a personalized psychological torture chamber is a terrifying testament to how beautifully complex and deeply damaged these characters truly are. It makes you want to reach right through the television screen and shake Nick awake before the encroaching darkness consumes his soul entirely. However, the resilient human spirit, even when heavily clouded by dangerous narcotics and overwhelming grief, possesses a primal, undeniable instinct for basic survival. As the grueling days drag on, and the frustrating false leads continue to pile up without any tangible results, a dark, creeping paranoia begins to firmly take root in Nick Newman's fractured, exhausted mind. The sheer, logical improbability of Matt Clark evading a highly paid, supposedly elite private investigator for this extended period of time starts to violently gnaw at Nick's subconscious. Nick begins to acutely notice the subtle, previously ignored inconsistencies in Detective Burroughs' polished reports, the slight, nervous hesitations in the investigator's voice, and the incredibly convenient, suspicious timing of every single failed stackout. The heavy drugs may be actively dulling his physical senses, but the lingering, powerful echoes of Victor Newman's deeply ingrained, ruthless survival instincts are slowly, surely waking up inside him. Nick Newman is currently standing on the dangerous precipice of a terrifying, world-altering revelation. The impenetrable walls of Patty's deception are beginning to crack, and the devastating realization that he has been completely betrayed by his own hired gun is imminent and unavoidable. But what will truly happen when a heavily armed, severely drug-addicted, and emotionally shattered Nick Newman finally uncovers the absolute truth about Detective Burroughs' malicious double-cross? Will he manage to discover Patty Williams' unholy, secret alliance with the amnesiac Matt Clark before she fully unleashes her newly minted, brainwashed monster upon the unsuspecting Newman family. The inevitable collision between a desperate, broken father seeking lethal justice and a brilliant mad woman orchestrating a symphony of chaos is hurtling toward a highly violent, unforgettable climax. Stay tuned, because the normally quiet streets of Genoa City are about to run red with vengeance, and absolutely no one is safe from the impending, catastrophic explosion.